Breaking news, Supreme Court hearing erupts as Trump's own justices turn on him. Warren Buffett, what we're seeing today is not just a legal formality. It is a reflection of institutional resilience. The Supreme Court has officially denied Donald Trump's motion to delay sentencing for his 34 felony convictions in New York. While he won't be serving time in jail, the sentence itself carries long-term implications. In finance, when confidence drops, value evaporates. In governance, legitimacy works the same way. This sentencing is a signal to the public and to markets that accountability still exists at the top. A legal system that enforces consequence without spectacle is one that earns trust, and trust is the foundation of both democracy and capital. As one door closes in the courtroom, another opens inside the chambers of economic authority. The Supreme Court is now reviewing whether the former president exceeded his constitutional role by using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping tariffs. This statute was crafted for true emergencies, not trade deficits dressed up as existential threats. The heart of this debate is institutional. Can any president unilaterally redirect trade policy without congressional approval? That is not just a legal question, it is a governance question. And as someone who invests for the long haul, I can tell you unstable frameworks create expensive outcomes. We're not just watching a policy case, we're watching the limits of executive action tested under judicial pressure. Inside the hearing, clarity gave way to confrontation. 3 liberal justices directly challenged Solicitor General John Sauer, asking whether the White House had trespassed into legislative territory. But the turning point came from within. Justice Neil Gorsuch, appointed by Donald Trump himself, expressed clear doubts about the administration's expansive interpretation of executive power that matters. In business, when your own board starts asking if you've overstepped, it is time to re-evaluate the model. The Constitution clearly vests Congress with authority over tariffs. When the court questions whether that authority was bypassed, we're not debating economics anymore. We're defining the rule book for how America governs commerce going forward. The Supreme Court's latest action didn't just arrive with weight, it arrived with timing. By refusing to postpone Donald Trump's sentencing for 34 felony convictions, the court made it clear that judicial accountability doesn't wait for political convenience in investing. Timing matters. In law, so does enforcement. And when the highest court moves forward, especially during a moment so politically loaded, it is more than legal procedure. It is a reaffirmation of institutional independence. Markets respond to signals. This was one, and the message is simple. The system is not frozen by fear. While that ruling reverberates, another issue brews just across the bench. The Supreme Court is now dissecting whether Trump's tariff authority exercised through the International Emergency Economic Powers Act exceeded constitutional limits. This isn't about taxes or trade. It is about whether emergency statutes can be used to bypass Congress. That is a dangerous shortcut. If a CEO rewrote board bylaws during a crisis, investors would plea. Governments aren't corporations, but trust works the same way. Stretching legal frameworks for short-term leverage often leads to long-term instability, and courts don't forget structural risks. Even when politics does, during oral arguments, the ideological divide wasn't the story. It was the convergence. 3 liberal justices went straight to the core, questioning whether the administration had overridden Congress's explicit role in commerce. But the real market shift came from Justice Neil Gorsuch, appointed by Trump, yet deeply principled in constitutional literalism. Gorsuch raised fundamental concerns about executive overreach that should worry anyone relying on loyalty over legality. In finance, when internal controls start flagging risk, prudent investors pull back. This was such a moment, not partisan, just structural. And structural cracks matter far more than temporary noise. Imagine the scene not as theatre but as an audit. The Supreme Court isn't nudging. It is stress testing the legal assumptions behind Trump's strategy. And what matters more is this. Scrutiny isn't just coming from ideological opponents. It is coming from within his own legacy. Some justices he handpicked are now flagging what could be systemic overreach. That should tell us something in the business world. If your own CFO raises concerns about compliance, you don't argue it is time for internal review. Yet Trump insists that economic collapse looms unless he retains unilateral authority. That is not policy. That is leverage by fear. And markets don't reward fear-based governance.